Hey guys, we've been talking about, oh yeah, grumpy old vet. Do what I want. Yeah, you know that's right. Yeah, you say, oh, no, you don't, Papa. You're married. Listen, I've been talking about the time I was in law enforcement, and let me move this camera a little bit. Hang on. All right, here we go. There's no way I can tell you all the stories that you live through them, or live with them, or whatever, of many years in law enforcement. You can't tell that many stories. You'd be sitting here for forever. But overall, I worked in law enforcement for like 20 years, all total. Now, about half of that was part-time. It's nights and weekends. So I'm not even going to go there on that. It was just more or less if they need you. I worked for 2 sheriff's departments full-time. And that's the part I'll talk about. And one of those that I will focus on, and it's the one I always felt the most challenging and probably the most rewarding, and I've said that before, was Liberty County, right here at home, Texas. Now, so I'm gonna go back and give you a little brief update. In 1969, Plum Grove had an election first off to be incorporated into a little town. They were afraid Cleveland was going to reach out and get them. Houston was constantly reaching up, getting more land, and incorporating it into their city each year. And so they said, we'll have an election, and if people want it, we'll become incorporated. And that's what they did. They got a lawyer, went through the election process. It all was done, approved by the district judge. So then they had to have a city election. The people would come together and they'd elect a mayor, 5 councilmen, and a police chief. And that's what they did. And I was elected their first police chief of Plum Grove. I'd been out of the Marines almost 2 years at that time. And it was a part-time position. And it was a lot to learn. I tell you, it's a lot to learn. And I had no police training at the time, you know. But anyway, you pick it up pretty fast, and you got other officers around that have been in the business for years and years and years. So it's, you know, you find out a lot of things, how to do things, and what to do, when not to do, and stuff like that. Kind of hands-on. And at the same time, being part-time, if you need help, you can always call them guys that show up. So it wasn't bad. It was good training. Good training. Howdy, stop. So, the old sheriff we had was Red Rose. And that Red is a nickname, I'm sure, but Red Rose. Been sheriff all my life, I think. And the old deputies he had been his deputies almost the whole time. They were all reaching, or had reached, that retirement age. And finally Red said, I'm stepping down. And all the deputies said, yeah, we're going to. And he asked them to stay on till the new sheriff come on to kind of, you know, bring them up to speed. And then they could go ahead and do their retirement. So that's what they did. Several people in Liberty County threw their name in the hat to run for sheriff. The most popular was a man named Buck Eccles. Buck Eccles, cowboy. Buck was a cowboy. Buck owned a ranch right outside of Liberty, and his mom had a hotel in Liberty. That's where he was raised, in Liberty. Growed up in Liberty. And he had just took early retirement from the Texas and Southwestern Cattlemen's Association as an investigator. So anybody to do in Texas with livestock, farming equipment, farming enterprises, livestock sales, or whatever, at that time, Buck Eccles was a household name. They would have knew who Buck Eccles was. He attended all the sales throughout any type of robberies or thefts or cattle gone missing or whatever, Buck was the man in this part of the country, in this part of Texas, that they called. So he was well known by all the farmers and ranchers throughout Liberty County especially, and other counties too. But, so he was a shoe-in. I mean, he just won the race hands down. Well, Buck offered me a job to come and replace one of the deputies who wanted to retire, and we was working in California, Sheriff's Department. Come back here and went to work for Buck in Cleveland. And I'm going to draw you a little picture here if I can. I'm going to turn this camera around. Just hang on with me. All right, this is my whiteboard. I borrowed this one. Then I got another one for my kitchen. It works better in the kitchen. This one was loaned to me, and then I was told, just keep it. Just keep it. Liberty County is shaped like a big L. I don't know if that has anything to do with it being called starting with L. That's the way it's shaped. Liberty County in the 70s had, this is the Trinity River, okay? The Trinity River kind of comes like something like this here. Liberty, the county seat for the sheriff's office, the jail, the courthouse, and all that was is right here. And Dayton, another city of equal size, is right here, 3 miles apart. Then way up here in that northwest corner is Cleveland. That's where I would be working. Now, draw an imaginary line right across here. This is called the south end, and this is called the north end, okay? All of this was farms and ranches, and most of this area all up and through here was farms and ranches. It's very rural. The population in the 70s, and this number varies with a lot of these subdivisions throughout these places, no one really got a count on them, but there's probably about 50,000 people. That's not a lot of folks. Some of your cities, a lot of cities have more than that. But about 50,000 people. But now we're going to talk about why it was a little bit harder place to work. Think about this now. The sheriff had 9 deputies. Counting him, 10. Counting him. Now the sheriff's job, a lot of politics. Now he knew how to do law enforcement, and he made a lot of calls. Serious calls. Shootings and all kinds of stuff. Because he knew what to do. But mostly, his job was political. He was out with speaking engagements, with Lions clubs, Rotary clubs, pilot clubs, school functions, senior citizens, city council meetings, and then also in the courthouse, almost daily in the courthouse, having meetings about different things, especially with the Commissioner's Court. Commissioner's Court controlled the money for our Sheriff's Department. Now look, this big old county, I think it's 140 square miles. 140 square miles. One of these deputies here was the chief deputy. The chief deputy. He run the sheriff's office. He was over the dispatchers. He was over the jailers. He was over the secretarial staff. He was over the identification and ID staff. Plus, he oversaw all the reports coming in from all these other deputies, the progress they're making on different cases, the case assignments and stuff. He was over all that. So he had a busy day, 5 days a week. One more, so that left 8, right? And that would take one more who worked in the courthouse as a bailiff. He only come out and worked in the courthouse. He never took calls. He never made any kind of police calls. He was the bailiff. He worked in the courthouse for the judge, district judges. So, let me stop right here for a second. Okay, out of our department, now my writing's not the best, okay? We had the sheriff, you had the chief deputy, and you had the bailiff. That's 3 people out of a 10-man department. Now, we're not counting jailers and stuff like that. So you had 7 field officers, 7, for this 140 square mile county. Luckily, and 50,000 people, 50,000 people. Luckily, some of that population was inside these cities, and they had their own police departments that took care of most of it. Although we were called upon in a lot of different cases inside cities to help out, to take care of the problem. So you had 7 field deputies. Okay. Move, Kippy. You gotta move. You had Liberty here, you had Dayton here, 3 miles apart, and you had Cleveland up here about 30 miles away. Okay. We had our own annex here. And I'll talk about that office here in a few minutes. Down here at the south end, you had 4 field deputies that did this whole part. Up here we had 3. Now, think about something for a second. We had 3, but one of them actually worked right here, this side of the Trinity River. It's kind of the sliver right here. And so that only left us, I got an eraser for this, guys. I have an eraser. 2 deputies for this whole area. That's a lot of folks in there. It's a lot of territory. And I don't have a lot of pictures left. I lost a lot of them in the floods, newspaper clippings and stuff. I have a few. They're hard to read. I'll show you some of them in a minute. We're going to talk a little bit about how our jobs worked, okay? So keep this in mind. 2 here, 1 over here, and 4 down here. Now, the reason you had 1 up here, this place here, all along this river was loaded with subdivisions, fishing camps, weekend cabins, and come weekends, the people out of Houston places come pouring in up here, and they thought because they was out in the county, they could do whatever they wanted to do. Shoot, guns, fight, drink, whatever. So this guy stayed busy, especially starting on Fridays all the way through Sunday. And then all week long trying to clean up the mess. Over here, we had the 2, my partner and I. Yeah, two of us. And down here you had 4. And you got to think half the time one of these was carrying prisoners back and forth to the courthouse from the jail. So it's not a big department. You ever watched that show, Longmire? Longmire reminded me of Buck Eccles. Now, we all wore Western clothes. We all wore cowboy hats. We all wore Western shirts and trousers and pants, or blue jeans, starched and iron blue jeans, cowboy boots. All of our leather that we wore was Western cut. Our gun belts and all that. But that was what we wore. Now, I got a couple old calendars somewhere I'll try to find. If we went to court, sometimes we'd wear a suit, tie and everything. Sometimes if we went to court out of county, we'd wear a uniform. It's the only time we ever wore a uniform. I was a certified peace officer, and back in those days, you was certified, went across the governor's desk to get all that stuff done. Now, some of you folks have made jokes about Pawpaw. I wondered, did Pawpaw have hair? Yes, I did. I had hair. Don't ever think Pawpaw didn't have hair. All right. So, yes, I had hair. I wasn't always an old guy. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about, stop this right here. You know, when I went to work for the sheriff's department, I was 27 years old. And I was the youngest deputy that Buck had. And by the way, he was an awesome man to work for. He was down to earth. He called me pal. Hey, pal. Pal. But he was a good guy to work for. Back you up, stand behind you. Better be right, but he'd stand behind you. He didn't believe in anything under the table. Better not. He was a good man. Good man. I loved his wife and his son. met them, went to their homes many times. But my partner in Cleveland was about 40, 42, 43 years old, a black officer. His name was Waddell Hines. Probably the finest guy I ever worked with. Waddell and I, we hit it off. I walked in the door and we become almost instant friends. Waddell hadn't been with the old department that long, and he was probably looking for some help. He was looking for some help because them older guys had just about kind of quit. They about kind of quit working. Good people. They just, there's retirement. Why get yourself in trouble out there? Why get out there and take chances? They're about ready to go home. The Cleveland office was so far behind on warrants, so far behind on a lot of different stuff to be served, done. A lot of investigations has just been sitting. And Waddell been trying to do a lot by himself. And I was able to come in, and me and him picked it up, and we took off with it. And we solved and served a lot of papers, made a lot of arrests that had been sitting and waiting for a long time. But that was what you did when you wasn't on call. Now, here's the way it worked in Liberty County. And first off, they publicized your home phone number. Yeah, you get all kinds of calls from all kinds of folks at home. But if you got a call and it was serious enough, you could let Liberty know what the call was, and they would get everything all set up with a case number and all that. But most of the calls came through Liberty County, through the dispatching system. But if you got a call, it didn't matter if it was a fist fight or a homicide. It was your baby all the way through till it was disposed of in the court system. And you worked it by yourself, and the only time you actually got help on anything, because the other officers working stuff too, unless it's a very serious thing, and then, it needed to be run down quick, get all the facts together quick. Then someone would show up, Waddell would show up to help out, but he had his own cases going. Same with these guys in the south end. They all had their own stuff going. Same with the guy over on the northeast corner. But he was kind of considered a north end deputy, and they called it the north end and south end. And if need be, he'd come over and kind of help out too, and we'd go over and help him out. But that was a wild place over there. God, it was wild. I can tell you some stories about over there. I had to make calls over there. Woo, Lordy. But and I will tell you a real funny one here in just a minute that happened to me over there. But it didn't matter what the call was, it was yours. And we were all qualified to do these investigations, fingerprints. It wasn't so much stuff about the DNA back in those days, fingerprints and all that kind of stuff, blood typing and all that kind of stuff. But then we used DPS, on the crime lab stuff. FBI did a lot of fingerprinting for us. We had an officer in Cleveland, though, that was also qualified to do fingerprinting, and he helped us a whole lot. They would just file it and see if it made a match. But it was our baby. It's the whole thing. But here's the thing. This is the reason I finally left Liberty County. And there got to be quite a turnover with the younger officers as they come on, because most of them had families. They had wives and kids. And the same way as with me. I was never home. I'd get up in the morning, the sheriff wanted us to be in contact, if he was not in the office there in Cleveland, be in contact with our dispatcher there in Cleveland, our secretary, on the radio. We lived in a car. We almost lived in a car. Good thing about it, we got a new car every 2 years. So it's always like driving a new car. But we had to be in contact with her or in that office from 8 to 5. Now, 5 days a week. You say, okay, that's not too bad, You got nights a week. No, you don't. Nights and weekends are on what they call on call. That's where they get you. Because, listen, at 5 o'clock in the evening is when it starts. That's when people are coming home from work, finding stuff been stolen or missing or broken into. something been done bad to them or whatever, that's when it starts. So you don't just get to leave at 5 o'clock and go home. That's when you start work. And I have gone to work before in the mornings and not come home until the following evening for a few hours and then go back out. So you're always on call, day and night. And like I say, it didn't matter what it was, you did it. I can proudly say that we left there, or when I left the sheriff's department and stayed almost two terms with Buck, I was never home. My kids were growing up, and I went in and talked with him and said, look, I'm almost a stranger in my own home. And he was having issues with other deputies, and Commissioner's Court, who controlled the money so tightwads, they wouldn't cut loose no money. We get more deputies for more help, because they was used to the old days. There wasn't many people. There wasn't anything going on. But anyway, that's just the way it was. And so I resigned. But I can truthfully say, all the cases, even the serious ones, homicides and all, we worked in our end, were solved. They were all solved. Arrests have been made. Homicides, rape. Well, yeah, you don't always solve the burglaries. There's so many burglaries. That was our biggest crime, is burglaries, because people have all worked and they'd come home and stuff been done. You don't always solve those. We solved a lot of them. But all the major stuff had been solved. Armed robberies, solved that. Made arrests. Anyway, that's why I quit. And a lot of other deputies were quitting about the same time. And he was finding that hiring older men, families already more or less grown up, would stay longer because they didn't have a family to go home to. Or like the guy I replaced, he never was married, never did get married. And here he was, almost 70 years old when he stepped down. Never been married. Quite a guy. All right, I'm going to show you a few pictures, if you can make heads or tails of it, because they all been through a flood. Some of them been through a fire and a flood. So hang on. This is me and another officer. With some stuff we'd recovered, and a letter from the FBI. And you see all those stuff blurred out. And some of the cases we worked. Good friends of mine. I assisted on this case. I just put it in the picture. Sorry, devils. Now here's my partner. Can't hardly see that picture. Good picture of him here. That's my partner. And he and I, we got along great. And that's about the only last one I got. That's me, my back to you, on the side over here. And yeah, I had hair. Tired of people saying Papa never had hair. I had hair, people. All right, guys. That's about all we got left on that stuff. So, if I find those two, calendars, I'll show them to you one day. I don't really know where they're at right now. I thought they was with all this stuff here, but they've somewhere got pulled out and not put back. And that was and like I say, I can't hardly tell you all the stories that the cases we worked, because it's, a bunch of years there. There's lots of stuff went on. But oh yeah, I was going to tell you about the funny one. This is a funny one. All right. One night about 2 o'clock in the morning, I get a call. The deputy on that far end over there was gone somewhere. He's out of town, out of county, whatever. And there was a fight at this. They had these dances over there on some of them sales offices, had these little pavilions, and they'd have these country western dances on Saturday nights. And they'd had this fight. It's all closed down. Everybody's left except for six guys. Six were fighting, 3 against 3. They'd been fighting for a while, and they called me, and the lady couldn't make them leave. Her and her husband tried to break them up. They tried to hit them and everything else. So here I go, 2 o'clock in the morning, alone, no help, no backup. There ain't nobody out there but me. Nobody. But that's what they expected. So I drive up, my headlights are on them, and there they are. 3 groups, 2 guys in each group, and they battling it out. And they probably drank so much they didn't know if it was hurt or not. So I get out of the car, and we always carried mace. I don't know what, I think they carry pepper spray or something like that now. We carried mace, and you spray somebody in the face, that stuff, and they can't see, they can't breathe, they just slobber and spit and gag. Some throw up, eyes water, they can't see what's going on. Best way to break up a fight. So I walked up to each group and just sprayed them, you know, just spray. Go to the next one, spray. I had 6 men laying out there in the dirt, gagging, spitting. Hop up, baby boy. Spitting and gagging. And when they all was able to finally focus on what was going on, who I was, I said, if you're still here, in 3 minutes, give you 3 minutes, clean your eyes out and get out of here. They all lived there in that subdivision. They wasn't going to be on the highway. 3 minutes to get out of here. And if I come back out here tonight, you're going straight to jail. Every one of you. But you got 3 minutes to get away from here. They was gone in less than 3 minutes. I called the dispatcher back because she knew what was going on. She knew how many people involved. She said, you need backup? I said, no, they're gone. They're gone. Catch you guys later. Guys, I just want to say in closing, it was a good job. I enjoyed the job. I did a good job. I'm bragging on myself, I guess. The sheriff asked me several times after I told him I was going to go, not to go. They even called 2 or 3 times after that, wanted me to come back. But my boys and my girls were growing up, and I was never home. We hadn't been able to go camping. We hadn't been able to go. We went to church. We had to go in that county car because I was on call. And I've been at church before when they'd come down from the office, tap you on the shoulder, so you got a phone call. And go out and have to leave. Movie. That's cut a movie short, and us all come home. So I had a call to make, and we had to go in that county car where we went. And I can tell you some other funny stories about that too. I won't today. This video is going to be too long. But anyway, I enjoyed my time there. But I enjoyed my time with my kids. Hopefully they get to know their daddy. Yeah, I'm their daddy. I come home and say, who are you? I'm your daddy. Catch you guys later. Right. One more thing. One more. The sheriff had a big barbecue one evening, and Jeannie was pregnant with Dan. And we go, well, you know, all these deputies walking around and their wives and stuff, and I think Jeannie was the only one that's pregnant and pretty far along. And the sheriff comes up, 2 or 3 officers with him. We all sitting there talking. And he looks at her, and she's probably embarrassed that he's looking at her. And finally he said, well, I see old Gene at least took his boots off once. She turned and red, that flag behind me. Catch you guys later.